A family stood up on Christmas Day.
That was a huge red flag that something was up.
Had he left on his own?
The small town life was a challenge for him.
Or was he involved in something much more sinister?
He had texted and basically said, "This is going to be a fun night."
The hunt for a mystery man.
They immediately recognized this guy and said, "That's our guy."
And a conclusion that no one saw coming. Why was this a case that everybody was talking about?
I think it was sort of titillating. It had murder, sex, kink, all those components to it.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Swartz Creek, Michigan, a small city right outside of Flint. The rural community made headlines when one of its residents vanished on Christmas Eve. The search to find him led to one of the most bizarre and twisted investigations that anyone has ever seen. It was a beautiful Christmas day in Michigan, but instead of a joyful celebration, the family of 25-year-old Kevin Bacon was worried sick. Kevin was supposed to be at his parents' home at 9 a.m. for Christmas breakfast, but he never arrived.
When he didn't show up for that was a huge red flag that something was up.
His parents tried calling and texting, but got no response. They then reached out to Kevin's friends, who also tried getting in touch with him, but no one was able to reach him.
It was completely out of character for Kevin not to answer calls or texts. You would think he would have responded to someone, and when he didn't, it set off alarm bells pretty quickly.
Kevin's family didn't understand why he was suddenly MIA. He had been looking forward to the holidays.
He loved his family. He loved Christmas. He had just seen his mother and sister the night before, and he, by all accounts, was ready to celebrate Christmas.
His parents tried not to think the worst, but they also had to consider the fact that Kevin had a past history of mental illness.
He was somebody who struggled. He had weight issues. He had some depression. He was a cutter in the past.
He had also been institutionalized a couple times for depression.
Growing up in a rural town with only 5,000 residents, Kevin had always felt like an outsider.
The small town life was a challenge for him, and he was known to be somewhat flamboyant. He would often dye his hair pink or purple or, strange colors, and he sometimes carried a purse, and all that sort of garnered him the reputation as being strange or an oddball in Little Swartz Creek.
So this is mid-Michigan, this is farm country. I would imagine there's judgment, very conservative kind of area where not a lot of people look like Kevin Bacon in mid-Michigan.
But despite his past struggles, it seemed as if he were starting to embrace what made him different with the support of his family.
His grandmother is Grace Bacon. She's a well-known and highly revered transgender activist here in Michigan.
Kevin had shared with her his dreams for the future.
And he went to the U of M Flint for a degree in psychology. He wanted to be a counselor in the LGBT community because that's where his heart was.
Kevin seemed excited for the first time ever about where his life was headed. That's why his disappearance just didn't make sense. By mid-afternoon, his family decided to go looking for him around town.
Pretty quickly, they found his car.
The car was parked in front of a local store, which was closed for the holidays. When they looked inside, what did they discover?
Inside his car were his wallet, his cell phone, and a bag of clothes.
Fear turned into sheer panic at that point, and Kevin's family knew they needed help.
His father, Carl Bacon, reported him missing and got the police involved. He felt for sure something was wrong.
They immediately recognized this guy and said, "That's our guy."
Police investigating the disappearance of Kevin Bacon tried to retrace his last steps. They learned from his roommate Michelle that Kevin had plans to go out on Christmas Eve.
He had a date with somebody that he met on Grindr.
Grindr, Tinder, these are all apps for gay men who are trying to hook up, sometimes just to meet, sometimes for sexual reasons with other gay men.
Michelle said that Kevin had been excited to meet his date and had even checked in with her after he was with him.
He had texted and basically said, "This is going to be a fun night. If mom asks, I'm sleeping." And that was the last text message conversation that he had.
So when you heard that Kevin had met somebody online and was now missing, what were you thinking?
My suspicions went automatically to something happened.
Investigators focused in on trying to find out who Kevin had been meeting the night he vanished. His roommate Michelle knew his Grindr password, and police read through his messages.
They were able to go back and look at his conversation starting on December 23rd, and one of those conversations was with a man who was 50 years old, and Kevin apparently shared with him that he was interested in a little bondage, a little BDSM.
So they kind of went back and forth and agreed on the scenario in which Kevin would be blindfolded, he would be bound, he would be naked.
It was a fantasy that Kevin had never experienced with a stranger before, and he asked for reassurance from his potential date. The man replied that he would keep him safe and prove that he was trustworthy. Kevin then agreed to meet him on Christmas Eve around 5:30 p.m. in the parking lot where his car was found. Investigators knew they needed to find out who this man was, but there was one big issue.
He had a screen name, which I cannot pronounce, but it means wolf in Greek.
Detectives released a missing persons poster, along with the detail that Kevin had been chatting with a user on Grindr named Olikos. The next day, someone came forward and said they recognized the name and led police to a Facebook page for Lucas Olikos Latunski.
They immediately recognized this guy and said, "That's our guy."
The man's real name was Mark Latunski, and he didn't live far from Kevin Bacon.
It's about a 20-25 minute drive from Schwartz Creek to Mark Latunski's house in Bennington Township.
As investigators began looking into Latunski, no one could prepare them for what they were about to discover.
You can imagine what those officers, what they were thinking at that time when they walked down and saw this.
Police had their sights set on Mark Latunski, the man Kevin Bacon met online and had a date with the night he disappeared. So what did investigators learn about Mark Latunski?
Mark Latunski, sort of starting back, he was married. He was described as a family man. He had 4 kids. He was a very successful chemist. He worked in a lab.
But detectives learned he had a dark side. After getting a divorce, he began an alternate lifestyle and was no stranger to the police. On October the 10th, just 2 months before Kevin's disappearance, a man called 911 after running out of Latunski's home.
I'm here in Detroit. I'm from New York. And I met this guy at the bus station who offered me a ride. And I'm not even sure who I am. I broke out of this basement and I need a ride. I'm in trouble.
The caller said he didn't know where he was or what had happened to him.
I met this guy. I'm by his shooting it on me. I went out to the car and talked. We went to the store, had soda.
He told the operator he didn't remember anything after that and believed he may have been drugged. He said when he opened his eyes, he was in a basement and his ankles were bound by leather straps that had chains attached to them. He was alone and his instinct told him to escape.
He was able to reach a butcher knife, and he was able to cut the leather straps that were constraining him, and actually went running into the night, still holding the butcher knife.
So when I see a police officer, I look for it. Until then, I don't trust that he's not walking up because I got lost, and I don't even know if I'm headed towards his house or not.
Police located the terrified man minutes later and brought him to safety. He told them that the guy he had met that night was Mark Latunski. He said he didn't want an investigation and just wanted to go back to New York. Without his cooperation, there was nothing more police could do. Then a month later, on November the 25th, another 911 call came in about Mark Latunski. This time, the frightened man ran out of Latunski's home and straight to one of Latunski's neighbors.
A guy showed up on his porch. He was wearing a leather skirt, belts across his chest, had purple hair, and was covered in blood. Comes to a neighbor's house of Mark Latunski's, screaming, clutching this guy's arm, begging to keep him safe.
I want to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm trying to escape from some guy who had me chained up in his basement.
Police took a report, but Latunski was never arrested because police say the man didn't want to cooperate in an investigation.
Neither man, perhaps shameful about the experience or how the meeting came down, neither man wanted to press charges. So police were really left with nothing to do.
After hearing about the other two incidents, investigators were convinced Kevin was probably still at Mark Latunski's home and got a search warrant for the property. Latunski was put in the back of a police car while officers went inside. When they got to the basement, they came across a shocking sight.
Some of my sources had described it as a sex dungeon or a medieval torture chamber. There's a sort of a trap door to hide this room in which there's this very intricate medieval pulley system and other kinds of paraphernalia for either torture or sexual gratification.
And in the middle of it all was the lifeless body of Kevin Bacon.
It was a scene that police officers said they had never seen before and would certainly never forget. Kevin had been stabbed in the back, and he'd had his throat slit, he had his body mutilated.
He was hanging from his ankles, bound by rope to this intricate pulley system. It was over some kind of container in which he was essentially bled out like an animal. You can imagine what those officers, what they were thinking at that time when they walked down and saw this.
Stunned officers came upstairs to report what they had discovered.
Can we get some sort of update for EMS?
Central, this is most likely a K. We're going to treat this as a homicide.
As officers waited for homicide detectives to arrive, one of them spoke with Latunski, who seemed completely unfazed by everything.
Do you know what's going on? Do you know why you're in the back of this car?
Yes, I know why I'm back in the back of this car.
Okay, well, I just want to let you know, I got my detective en route. My detective's probably going to want to talk to you, okay? So.
That's fine.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to let you know.
And then once I talk to him, how am I going to get back home?
Well, let's get stage one first, okay? Let's get the detective out here.
Absolutely. And then I can explain to him all the things that you guys don't know.
Okay.
And then I can come back home.
After detectives arrived, Latunski was taken to police headquarters for questioning.
He admits to killing Kevin. He makes no qualms about it. He did kill Kevin. What he said was that Kevin was suicidal, and he claimed that Kevin wanted to end his life, and that he told him he could help him do that. It was sort of an assisted suicide type of incident, was what Mark claimed.
After we sat and made an agreement about what was going to happen, we made the agreement, and he was supposed to disappear, be gone.
During the 3-hour interview, Latunski called Kevin his hero and described how he planned to use Kevin's body to regenerate life in his garden.
There's a pile of mulch out back. I was just gonna cover them with mulch.
You're going to cover his bones with mulch?
No, not the bones. I was just gonna take the internal gut portions and get rid of it, so that they were each growing things.
He seemed proud of what he had done, and was surprised when detectives told him he was under arrest.
Well, at this point, we are going to put you back in that cell there. And under the circumstances, you're going to be going to jail tonight until so we can figure out exactly what the prosecutor wants to do.
The next morning, Mark Latunski was charged with first-degree murder. The story made headlines all over the country.
Well, I think it was sort of titillating. It had murder, sex, kink, all those sort of components to it.
The news even reached celebrities. Actor Kevin Bacon tweeted his condolences, and makeup artist Jeffree Star helped pay for Kevin's funeral. Meanwhile, Mark Latunski claimed he was not guilty by reason of insanity, but a judge found him competent to stand trial. As that date finally approached, Latunski would once again shock everyone with a big announcement. Almost 3 years after Kevin Bacon was murdered, his killer, Mark Latunski, surprised even his own attorney when he decided to take a plea deal. When you heard that he was going to plead guilty to avoid trial, were you pleased?
Yes, very relieved. That allowed Carl to not go through all the things you would hear at the trial. And I think it was much better for him that way. And I was relieved for him and myself because we didn't have to go through that.
Kevin's family read victim impact statements during Latunski's sentencing hearing.
There were letters read by the family, and they were very candid in that their lives had basically been ruined, that they would never be able to celebrate Christmas again. As Carl Bacon, Kevin's father, said, evil does exist, and it touched their family that night.
Latunski was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As part of the plea deal, he will get mandatory counseling with a psychiatrist. And although they were happy with the sentence, Kevin's family knew that nothing would ever bring him back.
We are a very small family, and there's a big chunk of it missing now. His grandmother is gone. His parents split up. The only people that are left in the family are my son Carl, my granddaughter, and myself. So there's a big chunk of it missing, and it'll always be missing now.
Kevin's family has made it a personal mission to warn people about predators online and the dangers of using a dating app. They don't want any other family to ever have to go through what they did. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. While there are always risks with online dating, here are a few tips you can use to help maximize your safety. For initial meetings, avoid going to a person's residence or secluded location. Consider telling a trusted friend or family member where you will be or electronically share your location with them. And nowadays, apps like Life 360 allow you to see loved ones' locations, receive notifications when they arrive or leave destinations, and get alerts if they need help. And finally, block and report any suspicious individuals you interact with online. You never know when raising a red flag might help prevent yourself or someone else from being victimized. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.